right, so we're going to come back here and talk about the second part of this unit, which, as we left off, was the layers of the ocean within the oceanic zone. So I've got a new quote here for you guys. As a species, we've always been discoverers and adventurers, and space and the deep ocean are some of the last frontiers. So, honest card, I don't know who Paul Allen is, but I'll probably Google it after I finish this lecture. Um, but I liked this one obviously because we're going to be delving into some of the deep ocean concepts here. And it is pretty crazy to think about the fact that we live on this planet and we have so much unexplored on our own planet that we have never seen before, have no idea about. We know, as you guys heard the Bob Ballard quote from the beginning of the year, we know more about space than we do the ocean, which is in our own backyard, and that's just crazy. So today we're going to go ahead and you guys at least are going to learn a little bit more about that part of the ocean that you probably did not know before. So we have divided the ocean into layers, and like we talked about previously, we use physical factors like sunlight to determine those layers. As we go down in the ocean, as we go further deeper into the ocean, we end up losing light. So you guys know the further down you go, the deeper it gets, the darker it gets. But a couple other things happen that are pretty important physical factors to consider. One, the temperature drops. So pretty much as soon as you get out of that sunlit area, it gets really cold really fast. And you can think about that if you're walking outside and you walk from a sunny area to a shaded area, you can feel an instant temperature drop just from the protection from that sun. It's the same concept. The other thing is that the pressure increases. So you guys probably, if you've ever gone swimming in a pool and tried to swim to the bottom of a pool, you might have felt pressure like here in your ears, or if you go snorkeling, you might feel it even more. If you're a diver, you'll know that you have to hold your nose and actually clear your ears, similar to like when you're on an airplane and your ears want to pop. So that pressure, you can feel pressure from that just in the bottom of a swimming pool. So imagine thousands of feet of water above you. It is an astounding amount of pressure, and we're going to talk exactly what that would feel like, maybe not feel, what that would actually do to a human body. Sorry, there was a really loud explosion outside. Okay. Moving on. So we're going to start with this quick video here. Again, if you have already watched this or you would prefer to watch this on your own time, go ahead and skip ahead at this point.
The deep sea is one of the least explored places on Earth. Very few people actually get to go and experience it. So today, we're going to the deep sea.
And the reason this area is so unexplored is because it's hard to get to.
That is why we hooked up with submarine builder Carl Stanley.
But before we went down in this machine, Carl filled us in on how it was built.
It gives a little, but you can't just go to like a submarine store and buy things. For example, this section right here is made from the wheel well of a Cessna airplane.
Oh, this piece, you just molded it from the fiberglass?
I took it directly from, I bought old Cessna wheel wells. And this piece here is a replacement bumper for a 57 Chevy. And these eye pieces here are from a Yamaha all-terrain vehicle.
We found that Idabel is a surprisingly simple machine. It's made up of 3 steel spheres welded together. The outer shell serves as a hollow fiberglass ballast, which is fed by 2 compressed air tanks on either side. The sub is maneuvered via a redundant system of twin props in the rear, and a mixture of heavy-duty lights allow us to see at depth. Multiple acrylic portals then, including the 30-inch wide, 4-inch thick dome at the front, will allow us to view the creatures at depth. And maybe even more surprising, we found out that Carl has no formal training in building submarines.
Really quick, I wanted to bring it to your attention. They just said that that was a 4-inch thick window. 4-inch thick window. Why? Hope you can answer it, but the answer is because submarines go deep and there's lots of pressure as you go down, so they have to have those big thick windows, or really small area windows. That's why the windows that you can see right here are so small, so that they can the machine can handle the pressure better. Okay, moving on.
Marines. He started building his first one when he was 9 years old.
I don't think there's a whole lot better things you can do than explore. I mean, it's always interesting. It's something that by definition somebody else hasn't done.
So let's go diving. We're starting our dive in Roatan, Honduras, and it's a perfect place to do this dive because the water is so very clear. And once we go about 150 feet across the continental shelf, then we'll go straight down the slope that extends about 3,000 feet down.
All right, so we just shut the hatch, and Carl is getting ready to drive us down deeper and deeper. Let's see what we can find. And in doing so, we'll be able to pass through and describe many of the ocean zones. So let's start with the first one, the epipelagic zone. Right now we're at the surface. Photosynthesis is really abundant here. You've got corals and algae and phytoplankton that provide life for the entire area.
This is the place that most people see. In fact, it's defined as the place where photosynthesis can still take place, which in the tropics extends from the surface to about, 600 feet.
All right, right now we're deeper than I have ever been. We're down at 300 feet, but we're in the tropics, we're in clear water. You can still see the surface from where we are right now.
And as we go deeper, the low light brings us to a new zone, the mesopelagic zone. We're in the twilight zone. That's what the mesopelagic area is called out here. The light is still coming through, but there's not enough for photosynthesis. And you see this stuff over here? This was coral during the last ice age. As we explore this zone, we see a diversity of creatures we've never seen before.
All right, that right there is a sea lily. It's what we call a crinoid.
So it's deep, it's cold, and it's dark. And animals have special adaptations to survive in this environment.
One of the first adaptations that animals have down here is their color. A lot of the animals are red. Now, red, it doesn't seem like a very likely color because it's so bright to us up on the surface. But when you're down here in the deep sea, red is just like black because red gets absorbed very high up in the water column as light's penetrating through.
To help us show that down here, red is the new black, Carl turned off the lights to his sub.
Another adaptation many animals have in the deep sea is the ability to bioluminesce. This emission of light is thought to be found in about 90% of deep sea organisms. Now, as we traveled deeper, we started to see more plankton and more jellyfish.
We're in the layer called the deep scattering layer. It's called that because of the way it scatters back sonar.
What it is small fish. We're seeing squid. I'm seeing little decapods swimming by. And they're actually bouncing back this sonar back to the surface. So the deep scattering layer represents daily migrations of deep sea organisms from their resting place in the day on the deep dark edge of the mesopelagic layer to where they feed at the surface at night.
And this takes us to a new zone.
Alright, where we are right now is in the Bathel zone, sometimes called the Bathopelagic zone. Now it's the zone just below the mesopelagic zone, where no light ever penetrates. Now the only thing deeper than this is the abyssal zone, and the much colder and even deeper hadal zone. But since Carl's sub won't dive much deeper, we'll stop here and explore the bottom where organisms survive by feeding on organic matter from above. There we go.
Look at, oh, he's got really long legs.
Down here, every organism we see might be new to science. To learn more about the deep sea, go to untamescience.com.
Until next time, never stop exploring your world.
All right. So I love that video. I watch it. I will watch it every time that it's actually played, because it does such a nice job of showing the layers, and every time I'm like inspired to go look at new things. So to kind of get some of the context out of that, and again, reminder, you guys can pause anytime you need to or go back anytime you need to in order to hear these things again or have more time with the text on here. So the epipelagic zone is that top layer of the ocean. And notice we're only talking about the oceanic zone here. The epipelagic zone is just right here. So the epipelagic zone is the top 200 meters of the water, and it is considered the photic zone because this is the zone where enough sunlight penetrates through the water in order for photosynthesis to happen. So notice we've got a large portion of the continental shelf is located in this photic zone here. All right. How is their photosynthesis able to happen when there's no ground for plants to live in? Well, recall that we have most of the organisms in the ocean that do photosynthesis are actually floating around. So these are called phytoplankton. We're going to talk a lot about them in this unit, but the phytoplankton are microscopic plants, mostly algae, which are protists, and they contribute most of the oxygen available in our atmosphere, more than grass, more than plants, more than all that stuff. So this top layer of the ocean is actually one of the really, really important areas of our ocean, and that's just because it covers so much area in our ocean. So there's a lot of opportunity for photosynthesis there. Let's go back really quick before we move on to talk about the photic zone, and I'm just going to kind of preface some of the things that we're going to get into. If you live in the photic zone where there's light, it means that things like predators can see you. So if predators can see you, you need to be able to avoid those predators. And if you're a predator, you need to be really good at seeing your prey. So organisms in this epipelagic zone rely really, really heavily on eyesight to see their predator or their prey and their predators, and really heavily on camouflage and ambush tactics in order to either avoid predation or to find and capture prey. So this is a really cool zone. You're going to notice something in this zone, and when we go out on the boat, I want you to really try and notice it. It's something called counter shading. And I'm just going to do a really quick here. Well, maybe I am. All right, so I've just gone ahead and added a picture because I didn't think that I wanted to talk about counter shading yet, but now that I am, I want to show you what it looks like. So counter shading is a tactic that organisms in the epipelagic zone use in order to avoid predation and in order to avoid detection by prey. So this is a shark. Sharks have really nice counter shading. Counter shading is when organisms use a type of camouflage where the light or the underbelly is light and the back is, or the dorsal portion is darker. So if you think about this, if you were underneath this shark looking up and the sunlight was shining down on top of the water, this shark would be a lot less visible than if it had a dark underbelly. And vice versa, as sunlight is shining down on top of it, it's got the dark back, because when you look down into the ocean, it's actually darker because as you go down, there's less light. So even if you're at the very top of the water and you're looking down, you see dark when you look down into the ocean. So that is why sharks are, not just sharks, lots of organisms. And again, you guys are going to see this out on the boat when we go on Thursday to catch organisms. Okay, moving on. So we've got the mesopelagic zone, which is the next layer of the ocean. It goes down from the 200-meter mark all the way down to about 1,000 meters, and this is what they call the twilight zone. This is that area where we first start to see bioluminescence, and remember, those bioluminescent creatures are the ones that can glow that really pretty blue color, and again, we're going to talk about that quite a bit later on. So there's not a lot of light here, extremely faint, but we get bioluminescence for the first time here. I'll amend this. We can actually see bioluminescence, like bioluminescent organisms come into shallower waters. That's not incorrect, but this is where bioluminescence is relied upon for existence. All right, then we have the bathypelagic zone, and this is the first area that we have zero light, so not any visible light, nothing in the red orange, yellow, green, blue, purple spectrum, nothing that's visible light extends that far, meaning that all organisms in that zone are actually appear black underwater, and so you can't actually see them. Because they don't need to have any specific coloration, because every color is invisible, they end up being black or red with really not a whole lot of pattern. And again, that happens because if you think about the way that light works, we've got all the different colors, and all the different colors have different wavelengths, and a wavelength is how it moves like this. So some colors, like red, goes really big long waves, and then blue and purple are really fast waves. So the red waves actually are slow and lumbering, and they don't make it that deep into the ocean, so they're absorbed by the water first. Blue and purple make it down really deep as far as visible light goes, and so most organisms end up being in the deeper parts of the ocean end up being red because they are definitely invisible when they're red. The thing that we're going to focus on, the other thing we're going to focus on in this area is that the water pressure is immense. Look at that, 5,850 pounds per square inch. That's a lot. Let's do some quick math here. So we've got 5,850, just divide that by 150. That would be like 39 people standing on 1 square inch of your body. That's crazy. That's a lot. That's more pressure than you will ever experience. You would die. You wouldn't make it. But that is not even the deepest part of the ocean. We are not even in the biggest part of the ocean, which is the next one we're going to talk about, the abyssopelagic zone. The abyssopelagic zone is what makes up most of the sea floor, and this is 13,000 feet deep is where this zone starts, and there's still stuff living here, which is what's crazy. The water is nearly freezing, there's absolutely no light, and what's nuts is 3/4 of the ocean floor exist within this zone. This is what, that term from last unit, abyssal plain, the abyssopelagic zone is the water part over the abyssal plain. Which again is most of the ocean. The only part that's deeper than this is the Hadal zone, which is only in deep ocean trenches or underwater canyons like we talked about. Again, more pressure in this zone than we had previously. And then now we're in the last zone, which is the Hadal zone. This is extending past 20,000 feet deep and deeper. It's where the deepest part of the oceans are located, including the Mariana Trench, which is 36,000 feet deep. And that water temperature, again, is still just above freezing. The only reason it's not is because the water is very salty down here. The water is very cold down here, and cold, salty water is harder to freeze. It actually can get below 0. The pressure is 8 tons per square inch. So we talked about that. How many people did we say? 39 people standing on 1 square inch of your body would be the pressure that would be. This is 48 Boeing 747 jets on 1 square inch of your body. That's immense. And things live here without dying. I want to stress that to you, that this is not a place in the ocean where nothing exists. There's a lot of life down here. It just has to do things a lot differently than we are used to. All right, this video has become a little bit longer than I would like it to be, so we're going to go ahead and cut it off here. Again, if you guys have anything that you want to go back on, please feel free to go back. You will have another quiz on these layers of the ocean, so the layers within the oceanic zone. So be prepared for that when the quiz comes up, and we'll see you next time.